everybody, George Morgan here. Welcome to W1. We're looking ahead to our very first season of racing as a league as we now look to the women and girls taking to the virtual sim track and now looking to embrace what I'm sure will be an extraordinary 10-race calendar. The first round, though, to kick things off in terms of our actual season affair is going to be at Albert Park, Melbourne, Australia. Of course, home of the Australian Grand Prix in Formula One. It's going to be a very interesting one, to say the least. Obviously, with the teams now taking to the grid, a lot of interest outside as well. Just coming through from the initialisation of the league, 40 to 50 drivers signing up and going through that process to commit to this series. And now we're looking ahead of what I'm sure will be a tight and twisting season with many drivers coming into the fold and taking part. I want to firstly say a big thank you to those drivers for signing up, the fans that have embraced the league, of course, since we started, and to the staff that have worked oh so hard behind the scenes to give you all the action as well. We really do appreciate your time and dedication. If you want to stay tuned for more, remember, of course, check out the social medias. If you're watching on Twitch and YouTube, why not leave a follow if you're watching on Twitch? If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a like and also subscribe to the channel. Check out W1 Series as well on social media at W1 Series on Twitter, Instagram, and of course, TikTok. But now you've heard enough from me. I'm not going to be in the commentary box tonight. I am unfortunately under a terrible January cold, as typical of this time of year. But you will have a live broadcast brought to you by TK and Carl Puranak. But from me, George Morgan, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy the show. It's time to go racing and put pedal to the metal. And it is indeed go. Big shout out to Sim Racing Centre as well. Check him out. See you soon. Goodbye.
Well, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon to wherever you may be in the world, and welcome, finally, to the inaugural round of the W1 Sim series here, well, for the very, very first time. And whilst it's a shame that we don't necessarily have George Morgan with us for the opening round, as much as he would oh so have loved to be here, as he heard just in that brief opening, taken down by a winter cold, I assure you, the quality of the broadcast will not drop a dime, as we've got myself, Tom Knight, and of course, the wonderful Carl Puranak alongside us as well. Carl, you quite literally have fought the weather to be here on time, and it is so good to have you in the box with us. How are you?
I'm great, man. It's so good to be here, honestly. I understand that this has been a long, long time in the making. There's been a lot of work that's been put into it, and it's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to be hosting the first round of the season. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely is. Our first round, of course, takes us a little bit down under to Melbourne. Melbourne? I said this in the intro, and you said I wasn't going to do it. Albert Park in Melbourne. There we go. A bit of a tongue twister for everybody to get their heads around. A fantastic venue, and one that we are trying to follow the real-life calendar as much as we possibly can, with a slight exception. We always wanted Australia to go first. In my opinion, it should always be the track that goes first, and I'm so glad it is back on your screens. But Carl, obviously, we're talking about the Australia circuit, one of the, in my opinion, all-time greats on the calendar. I mean, let's go ahead and have a look at it, but talk us through what really stands out to you from this.
I think 4 DRS zones, first of all. You've got 4 big opportunities to get that rear wing open, to properly settle into the slipstream, to make the most of the moves. Of course, you make more of a benefit of that through Sector 2 and the beginning of Sector 3. That's where those big opportunities are. But it's going to be about really not being in trouble. Australia, of course, 50% race will have. It's very tricky to do a one-stop. You don't want to get embroiled in battles. And it really lends itself to actually maybe some of those drivers who drive more conservatively by default. They're able to save their tyres a bit more. Those who have a slightly more gutsy approach, a more aggressive stance throughout their battling and on their pace, could actually have more of a hindrance tonight. So the dynamics are going to be interesting, particularly with strategy.
It really will do indeed. Of course, 29 laps will be our tour around the Albert Park circuit here this afternoon. And of course, our drivers getting used to their partnerships within their teams and their constructors. And whilst there's no constructors championship necessarily to fight for, there's going to be that element where they have to try and navigate the pit stops, not trying to avoid double stacking as much as they possibly can. So it is going to be beneficial to somewhat work with your teammate as well. So it's going to be a real interesting season. I can tell you that one for free. And what I can also tell you for free, we're about to head into the lobby. Our drivers are getting themselves ready and prepped, as we have got the first of the laps beginning to commence here, Carl.
Absolutely excellent. Well, here we are, straight into the thick of it. Of course, short qualifying session, and we highlight the Alpine of Catherine Ormerod, who's going out for their first flying lap in anger. One of the very first in W1 in this league series, and what a wonderful roster of drivers we have. These wonderful women who will be under some brutal art of close quarters combat tonight, but equally they are going to push for every single part of this session. All the way through Sector 2 we go now, hugging that narrow line to make sure they minimise the distance all the way through, and then it is maximum deployment of the DRS down towards this chicane.
Absolutely, 200 miles an hour on entry in towards this chicane. It's so easy to get it wrong. If you run even the slightest bit wrong over the curbing, you will find yourself quite possibly with a face full of Armco barrier. But for the Alpine at the moment, continuing to parade through the historic streets here in Melbourne and looking to set one of the first lap times. You've got the two Aston Martins that stand just in front of her. Emma Clay being one of those who will set, I believe, the first time. If math serves me correctly, Miss Nutrix, though, is the first to take that crown. A 1:18 for Nutrix. Clay goes faster with a 1:16.3. Catherine Ormerod slots in with a 16.5. And now the times are going to continue to whittle down until our 18 minutes have amassed, and we will have our first pole sitter for this W1 series here, Carl.
Emma Clay is absolutely one to watch today. I was going to highlight her first and foremost. Not just because she drove a Williams in pre-season, so I'm not biased, but a 16.3 as a banker time is pretty impressive going, especially when the track hasn't been quite rubbered in yet, especially when you haven't quite picked up 110% confidence as more times come flooding in. Ed's 17.96 in the Mercedes goes just over a tenth faster than Jessica Ball, who currently occupy the second row off the grid, but there'll be many, many takers, including one Miyuki Panda in the McLaren.
Yep, absolutely correct. Miyuki Panda just making their way through those final collection of corners, running that beautiful chrome McLaren livery that you can unlock here in F1 25. And as they round the final corner, looking to try and set a time in and amongst this board. I know they've done a lot of practice here on F1 25. Crosses the line with a 1:18.744, placing them 7th fastest at the moment, with their teammate Sharkson or Lee Woodward still to set the fastest time for the sister McLaren at the moment. We've still got a couple of drivers further down, the likes of Carlotta down repping the Scarlet Red Ferrari as they make their way through that treacherous chicane. Almost perfectly, Carl.
Yeah, clean through the Ascari chicane, not getting caught up on the outside curb, exactly what Carlotta needs to do. Just kissing the inside curb and then taking a whole chock of outside curb to maximise the track. Complete confidence, it seems, from the Ferrari driver, exactly what they want on their first tour of Albert Park, a track that's undergone a transformation not too long ago. But will pole position be transformed in favour of Carlotta in the Ferrari? It is a top 10 for the time being, 1:20.2. It's crucial you get that lap time on the board. Track limits are very easy to extend here.
They absolutely are. Just some information, this was reminded to me earlier. Ed's 1796 is indeed Katrina. You will remember her, I believe, from pre-season. I think just a slight change on the platform they are running. So that is the driver standing in P3 at the moment. Melissa Muller running for Team Kick Sauber, enters in towards the first section of corners. Down in 15th at the moment, looking to put down a rather good lap time. We have got purple sectors spread across two different drivers at the moment, Carl. So Kiwi, down in 5th place, holds the fastest first sector. And of course, Emma Clay, our resident pole sitter at present, holds the fastest second and third sectors.
Well, there goes another purple first sector in the form of Melissa Muller in the Kick Sauber, running the special livery, and those times will continue to tumble. Absolutely they will. Burning the overtake battery, then just quickly switching it off. You want to save just a tiny bit of battery for after this chicane. Kiss that first curb, and then you absolutely annihilate that second one if you can. Either way, it's clean and composed as they now toboggan down towards this tricky technical part of Sector 3.
Absolutely is. Third and final sector, such a difficult one to get right, especially that final corner. It seems somewhat deceptive when you're making your way through. I'm just going to cut across to Speed Queen down in 18th place. Purple middle sector for the Red Bull Racing outfit. So this could be a time that competes with the likes of Clay up at the top.
A tiny bit of slipstream just went wide of the apex at that right-hander as Melissa, with that purple first sector, slots into P3, an excellent lap time with 11 minutes to go. But like you say, it's confidence round this final corner. You can keep your foot absolutely pinned, but you've just got to believe that the car will have the aerodynamic prowess as into P3 goes Speed Queen, the third driver into the 1:16, and that is a very decent lap indeed.
An absolutely fantastic lap from Rebecca Morel there, just placing her Red Bull into third place. As you said, the third of three drivers to head in towards the 116s. But as it stands at the moment, Carl, no one able to topple the likes of Emma Clay, who's managed to put in a absolutely storming lap time of a 1:16.389. Of course, sister to Shanika Clay in one that is respective in her own right. But Lee Woodward, look at that, out of absolutely nowhere, taking the Papaya machinery right to the top.
Papaya Pros biding their time. It's just a 10th of a second, but that's their first lap of the session. Emma Clay's already had one lap to instill the confidence, and now she's going to push it to the limit. Once again, everybody probably doing 3 runs in this session. You do have that luxury, of course, because of how short the lap time is. You are able to get as much track acclimatization as possible, sweeping through turns 3 and 4, just touching the outside curb. There is complete confidence in Emma Clay. Will it be a purple sector 1? No, it's not, but a slight improvement nonetheless. This is the strong bit though, TK. This is where they extract the absolute most of the pace.
You're absolutely right. Pretty much flat out for 90% of this sector, almost including that left-right chicane, which we said is so treacherous. Turns 9 and turns 10 as they pass by the McLaren that is parked on the left-hand side. Great sportsmanship shown there just to get out of the way of a car that is indeed on a flying lap, and they've got a little bit of traffic here as they head into what will be turns 12. You can see all the cars scattered around, but they're moving out of the way. Incredible sportsmanship.
Yes, it's extremely good. It can turn into traffic paradise very quickly. Rip Yuki, but through the penultimate corner goes Emma Clay, and it's actually going to be a retreat to the pit lane, so not quite the lap they would have been hoping for. Jessica Ball, however, is just trying to push the limits a little bit more. Just an incremental improvement moves them up to P6, but it is just ridiculous, and that's with just under 9 minutes to go. 32 thousandths separating 5th down to 7th, and those gaps will only get smaller.
Yeah, we can see only a second separating the top 7 at the moment, and actually only a further second back to the likes of 8th. The entire grid getting ever closer together, and this will continue to close up as the season goes on. I feel the ladies will get more confident with their driving. They'll get more confident, especially in qualifying, and we are going to see the likes of the closeness on these qualifying orders get incredibly close together. The only driver at the moment that hasn't set a valid lap time being Jen Chowski, who is running through the 3rd and final sector at the moment in that beautiful V-Carb car that has run in the 2025 season. The number 49 looking to try and make a good representative lap time for herself here.
Yes, DRS wide open to the start-finish line. What time is it going to be for Jen? It's going to be a 1:19.7, and that's everybody with a valid lap on the board. And it's just absolute entertainment to see the way that the improvements are raining in from every single driver. Catherine Ormerod, here they go, for a second crack at the whip in anger. It's a 10th up in the first sector, and that already puts the times of Lee Woodward and Emma Clay straight into jeopardy.
If they're able to continue this through the 2nd and 3rd sectors, as you said, they'll be right about knocking at the door of the likes of Woodward and Clay, who stand in 1 and 2 respectively at the moment on our timing table on the left-hand side through turns 9 and turns 10, and a brief run off there, but I do believe that was just a little bit of desync. The Alpine keeps it on the straight and narrow as they run down to what will be turn 12 and into the tricky final sector. As we are with just over 7 minutes left on our qualifying clock, don't forget to get your predictions as who you think is going to take provisional pole position here in the live chat below. Whether you're watching on Twitch and or YouTube, we want to hear from you, and let's see where Ormerod can go here this afternoon. They'll run up towards the line, looking to make an improvement. Can they improve? Yes, they can. They'll take 2nd fastest away from Emma Clay.
Just over attempts separating the top 3. It's tantalising action, ladies and gentlemen. And if you are tuning in for the first time, first of all, welcome. It's delightful to have you along to watch this first race of the season, the first race of the W1 Sim Series, as the improvements rain in at a rapid rate of knots in qualifying. Make sure you get followed in. Make sure you subscribe on the YouTube. We would love to have you along for this amazing journey. Melanie in the Ferrari is pushing in anger, though, through Sector 2 once again. Feels like a walk in the park, or at least you feel like it should be, but actually, it can catch you out big time. 1.3 seconds worth of improvement, though, is nothing to turn your snout up at. Keeps it well within track limits, and it's just Sector 3 to go here.
It absolutely is. In the Scarlet Red Ferrari, looking to try and make improvements that would currently stand her at roughly around 14th or 15th place. Still more opportunities through the third and final sector, which according to her previous lap wasn't necessarily her strongest of the three here in Albert Park. It's this tricky final corner that you just have to keep the car planted and hope and pray that you can get the power down if and when required. Runs up towards the line. Melanie Janda improves by over 2.5 seconds to go 13th fastest. Unlucky for some here, Carl, but that is not to be snuffed at.
Absolutely not. That is a monumental improvement from Melanie Janda. Fantastic stuff there. Ferrari 13th and 15th, but we're seeing those gaps once again. Once people are slotting in into the pecking order, 7/10 up for Miss Nutrix meanwhile, so I'm going to hold that thought for a second, because the Aston Martin driver could be about to put on a spellbinding show. 1.2 seconds worth of improvement, another driver into the 17s, and a driver into the top 10. It's P8, but hello! Say hello to Speed Queen by name, Speed Queen by nature. It's P1, and Lee Woodward has been toppled.
And I'll tell you what, there was an attempt by the sister Red Bull team as well as Emma Clay retakes her crown here this afternoon into the 16 flatter, 16.036. Wow, right at the final time of asking, we've had 3 drivers improve that would have been good enough for provisional pole position by themselves. They've each topped the rest, and at the moment, Clay once again holding on to the top of our timing tower.
They are knocking on the door of 1 minute 15. Unbelievably close margins here, but Emma Clay take a bow out of absolutely nowhere, and that's the kind of caliber of driver she is. She can make the impossible absolutely possible. She could pour a pint into a shot glass, so should she wish, but Miyuki Panda opening up the DRS. They're looking for improvements themselves here in what I have to absolutely concur with you, TK, is a beautiful Chrome McLaren.
It is one of my favourites of the season, and if you don't know, I'm a rather McLaren fan myself, but it's one of my favourites, if not the Golf livery from Monaco a few years ago. But we'll watch Panda as they round the final corner, sat in 12th place at the moment. Where can they go after this journey around the Albert Park circuit? They'll run up towards that timing line, and it's not an improvement this time around, but have they got what's left in the battery to maybe go again with just over 3 minutes left on our timing clock here, Carl?
They can definitely charge up the battery, but the softs round here do melt really quickly. They're going to have to treat them so carefully. They've got 3.25 minutes just under. So they have the luxury to just let the tyres go through as, well, Ed 1796, Katrina almost caught under the diffuser of the McLaren for a brief moment, but they carry on. It's 2.5 tenths down in Sector 1. As a result, just caught out. I wouldn't be surprised if they went to recharge the battery and went again. For the moment, though, it seems like they're keeping their foot flat to the floor.
Certainly seems that way. We'll get an eye on how it might be going on as they cross the second sector split. 3.5 tenths down as things stand. Probably not looking to improve this time around. Let's switch it across to one that is competing in a home race here this afternoon, Carl. Annie Crevice as they round the final corner, down in 18th place at the moment, looking to improve on a 120.9. Can they try and climb themselves up that ladder? They certainly can. They'll go 13th fastest now into the 119s. Bare thousandths of a second off, reaching into those 118s as well.
Fine margins. We said it would come to it, and it's going to happen again. Emma Clay is somehow going to get another lap in. Like I said, it's the luxury you have having a track with this short of a lap time, as we just highlight Sarah Hardy in the Williams. I'm not biased, but that is the best team on the grid. But it is a 1 minute 18.3 at the moment, just taking it relatively easy for the time being. You can see the red light on the back flashing, charging up the battery. Wouldn't be surprised if they are preparing for one final lap in anger, because this is where it gets tasty. This is that crucial final push for pole position.
Certainly is indeed. 1 minute and 33 seconds left on the clock, then let us know in the live chat who you think is going to take pole position here, because if you told me right at the start that it was going to be this close, well, we would have been in for a very invigorating qualifying session indeed. We've got Emma Clay that currently stands atop. Rebecca Morel stands in second, but literally anybody on this timing tower is capable of taking away provisional pole position. And here comes Sarah Hardy's final attempt, almost certainly at taking that top spot.
And we really do mean anybody could take this. There's just under 3 attempts. Jen Chowski gets a 5-place grid penalty for a collision. It's a big collision as well. A McLaren involved. It was for the contact with the Ferrari, but the McLaren also involved. That's Sharkstorm. That's Lee Woodward. One of our contenders for pole position has now disqualified from the session. Is Jen Chowski, as there is the stranded Ferrari sideways on the track. Melanie Jander also disqualified for parking in a dangerous location. Drama has erupted in the final moments.
This is fascinating. We've been told on a few drivers communicating that everyone has just gone AI, so I wonder if there was a bit of an issue surrounding something in this moment. I can confirm that I highly doubt that what happened was completely regular to see here. We will try and keep an eye on everybody as they progress through. Emma Clay, as it stands, still atop our timing tower. Speed Queen Rebecca Morel stands in second, just barely off the pace of Clay and the Aston Martin at the moment. It is all well and truly still to play for. 3 drivers not able to set one final lap time. That'll be the likes of Tini Annie Krevis down in 13th place, and of course Katrina Eds up in 7th place. Everybody else who crosses the line now will be setting their final runs. Kiwi will be the first.
Kiwi absolutely to cross the line to try and prize pole position, and they do! The first driver into the 1:15s. That is an interstellar lap time from the V-Carb, but there's plenty of takers to try and pick it away. Melissa Muller will not be that driver in question. Someone has to pull a magic rabbit out of the hat to try and disrupt the flow of the V-Carb. Emma Clay, despite the purple final sector, will not do it. There's only a few that can take this, TK.
There absolutely is, and that's going to be Rebecca Morel topping the time set by Kiwi of 59.66. At the moment, Red Bull Racing stand to be in the front of the grid here in Australia as we go racing for round 1 of W1 Sim Series. Sharkstorm cannot improve. Can Miss Nutrix try and come across the line to unsettle things? No, they've invalidated their final run. The only contestants left out here, Mayuki Panda, making their way through the final few sections, but invalidates their personal run. Heather, who we haven't seen much of in this qualifying session, comes across the line not improving for a 1:19.1, and here we go then at quite possibly the final time of asking Rebecca Morel take a bow as she reclaims her crown and will start at the front of our Australian Grand Prix.
Take a bow. Show-stopping performance from the Speed Queen. I said it. Speed Queen by name, Speed Queen by nature. No one can hold a candle to her in qualifying, although they were mighty close. 15 thousandths between pole position and second on the grid. Make that apparently 14 thousandths. The math isn't mathing for me, but regardless. Red Bull reigns supreme here in qualifying, and that's just qualifying. We have an absolutely tantalizing race on our hands tonight.
We absolutely do, so let's run through the complete order as we get ready for what will be a lobby restart, of course. That is the experience that we have in W1 Sim Series, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, and of course, in case of game issues, as we saw just a few moments ago. So Morel starts from pole. Kiwi will start from second place. Emma Clay, who looked so confident to take her first pole of the season, starts from third place alongside Lee Woodward, because I believe that 5-place grid penalty will be null and voided. Omerod starts alongside Ball in 5th and 6th, respectively, with Melissa Muller, Katrina Eds, Miss Nutrix and Setar Elvin in up to 10th place, and then Cutie Bunny, Teeny, Miss Yuki Panda, Annie Krevis, Heather, Carlotta, Melanie and Jen Chowski will start as your top 18 here this afternoon. Carl, where do we stand now as we head in towards the main race situation? What differs for our drivers in terms of preparation?
Very good question. It is a really, really good question. I think ultimately it is Australia's a bit of a long game in terms of a 50% race. Like I said, to do a 1-stop is technically the quickest strategy that you can have. Doing a 2-stop is around about 7 seconds slower, and that's without the traffic. That's without making the overtakes themselves. But also you have a bit of a double-edged sword. Like I say, this could lend itself Two drivers that ultimately maybe don't have the overall raw pace because they're slightly less harsh on their tyre wear. They could more easily do the one-stop. I know I did a league race recently, and based on the fact I tried pushing on the mediums, I think it was for 13 laps, and it was a slug out, let me tell you. If you get to that second stint, if you manage to weather the storm, you do manage to cross that barrier, but that first stint is going to be the big one tonight. They just have to play it a bit patient.
You're absolutely right. Of course, 29 laps will be the race distance. And whilst there was no rain expected in this initial qualifying session, the lobby restart could throw, well, a whole host of different weather conditions when it comes to that main race in just a few moments' time. And whilst we've got this brief lull, this brief pause in proceedings, I think it's worth just to have a look at how your lineups stand for this afternoon. We've got 18 cars on the grid. Of course, that will be 19 full-time drivers when we get into the full flow of the season, and one that will always be a wildcard, picked from the reserves and from drivers trying out for the league. It's a nice way to make sure that everybody gets themselves a way in towards, and also an opportunity to maybe throw a little bit of a an interesting difference within the mix. But you can see on your screens at the moment, these are how your lineups go for the first round here in Australia. It's Annie Crevice and Catherine Omerod who step in to the Alpine. Of course, Catherine stepping in as one of our first reserves of the season. Emma Clay and Miss Nutrix, our teammates at Aston Martin, with Melanie Janda and Carlotta Marchi repping in the Scuderia Ferraris. We've got Nicole Machua in the Haas car with Mayuki Panda and Lee Woodward representing your Papaya army for today. Carl, why don't you take us through the other 5 cars?
Absolutely. The Silver Arrows then, headlined by Hevar, and I've been told, we've learnt that it's Hevar in a British accent. Maybe a slight drop of the mouth, Hevar. But either way, she is top of the line at Mercedes with Katrina Edmonds also partnering alongside her tonight. We've got Catherine Thielking in the V-Carb alongside Jen, of course, who had a little bit of an oopsie in qualifying. We highly doubt it was entirely her fault, because game things do happen. We then have in the Red Bull our pole sitter, Rebecca Morel, out of nowhere, but Speed Queen by name, Speed Queen by nature, and Jessica Bull alongside her. Melissa Muller, the lone Kick Sauber out on the track, the vibrant green machine. And then in the wonderful Williams duo, we have Martine Smith and Sarah Hardy. It's an absolutely wonderful lineup, and what an outlet, what an opportunity.
Absolutely, a fantastic lineup of drivers, and one that I'm sure will get even more stacked as we head through the season. Who can go without talking about that potential wildcard entry? Very similar to what we see at F1 Academy and the likes along there. It is just that nice element to be able to bring a new driver, a new face in every week, but also quite literally add a wildcard to the races car.
Absolutely, quite right. And like you say, gives them an opportunity to get that track time in, to race alongside some of the great female sim racers in the community. Like I say, it's just such an outstanding outlet and opportunity that just brings them all together, gets them on the same track to say, okay, let's see what skills you got. Let's see who can reign supreme. And what a spectacle we have on our hands. George Morgan said it himself, 70 thousandths, 700ths of a second between the top 3. There is, well, a somewhat clear 3-horse race in terms of qualifying, but in race conditions, that can all turn on its head.
It absolutely could. And whilst we're talking about lineups, let's talk about the calendar at the very same time. And this is it on your screens at the moment. We've kicked off with round 1 here in Australia. We then head to Japan next time out for the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. We then head to the Bahrain International Circuit for round 3 on the 22nd of January before heading over to Spielberg and the Styrian Hills for the Austrian Grand Prix on the 29th of January. As we head into February, we head to Silverstone, the home of Grand Prix racing, on the 5th of February for round number 5, before heading to the Stavelot Forest for Belgium, and round number 6 on the 12th of February. Round number 7 takes us to Monza, the Temple of Speed, and one of the circuits we saw in our opening pre-season races, before, well, jetting off to the Middle East as we head to Qatar, what used to be a MotoGP circuit turned Formula 1 circuit, on the 26th of February for round number 8, before heading off to Abu Dhabi, which has been the season closer for Formula 1 for many, many years, making our penultimate round, round 9, on the 5th of March, and, well, before finishing it all off for round 10 on the 12th of March, where, again, in my personal opinion, all F1 seasons should end. That is beautifully Interlagos. and Brazilian Grand Prix. Carl, obviously some fantastic tracks on here, a great mix of high speed, low speed corners, and ones that I'm sure the females and the women within the league will enjoy. Any tracks that stand out to you particularly?
Oh, I mean, it's a fantastic selection of iconic tracks in its own right. I would say Bahrain will be interesting, I think, particularly strategy-wise, with the overtaking opportunities available. Can't go wrong with Silverstone and Monza. If it was anything like we saw in the social races, we are in for an absolute treat there. And I couldn't agree more with you. Where else could you end a season of league racing, motorsport, Formula One, whatever it may be? Where else could it be other than Brazil? A cutthroat climax awaits there at the end of the season. But yeah, what a calendar. Just teamed with iconic tracks, corner names, you name it. It's absolutely brilliant.
You're absolutely right. And it's worth mentioning as well, as Victoria's kindly put in our Twitch chat, all of these tracks were chosen by our drivers through an anonymous poll. They were asked, what tracks would you like to see on the opening, the inaugural season calendar here for W1, and it was pretty much by a landslide these tracks were voted for and henceforth chosen. We decided to run primarily in season as we'd see it in real life order, obviously with the exception of Australia being moved to the front, Brazil being moved to the season finale, but all the tracks were voted for by the drivers as well. They had their say in where they wanted to race here this season.
Well, I think that confirms one thing and one thing only, and that's these drivers know wheel. That is an excellent set of decisions from them. Fantastic calendar all the way through, and it begins tonight. Albert Park, known for having corner names that are mostly not Australian names, but we'll gloss over that. The point is, it's going to deliver some outstanding racing. 4 DRS zones, strategy up in the air, 3 drivers that are going to be at each other's necks at the front, barring they make turn 1. Can't ask for much more, TK, can you?
You can't at all. And interestingly enough, whenever you want to do a little good bit of trivia, I quite often will use the Australian corner names because they don't sound Australian in the slightest, and it really tends to throw people off. So there's a fun fact, a little tidbit for you. If you're watching along at home and want to do some fun F1-based trivia, just use some corner names from Australia. Everybody thinks of every other circuit. You're welcome for that little one. We are moments away, hopefully, from going racing. We're just setting the grid and making sure those drivers that may have experienced some technical difficulties are back into their respective slots. So the drivers that did get DSQ'd and kicked out of the lobby with an issue, they are being reinstated to where their best lap time would have set them. So do not fear, everybody. Everything is being taken care of in the background by our very own Jess Ball, who is managing this lobby like an absolute boss, it must be said, because that is a job that I do not like doing in the slightest.
Neither do I. I agree. Well done. Jessica Ball,
yeah.
I don't envy you, but you are an absolute superstar. So well done. I think, you know what? Twitch chat, YouTube chat, please let us know right now. Who do you think is going to win this race? Of course, probably a bit early to pose the question, but interesting. You've had a bit of an idea in terms of qualifying. Emma Clay, you have Kiwi, you have Rebecca Morel at the front of the grid. Obviously have scintillating pace, but is there a wild card into the mix as well? That is your selection. That is your 18 excellent candidates for victory today. You never know. There might just be a name up in the air that one might not expect. There is one that's definitely been expected. Ashley Eleanor says Emma Clay. That is not a bad shout at all.
I wonder why she might have said that name. It's a complete shock to me. But no, I completely stand with it. I think there's going to be so many women on here. I think everybody has a chance at winning this, because it is going to be one of these issues, or not issues, one of these races where quite possibly anyone has a chance to win. And that's what I love about the series so far. We've seen it in the 3 pre-season rounds where we've had winners literally come from maybe 10th place or 9th place on the grid and managed to work their way forwards. Sometimes it is just the luck of the dice roll. Scotty Designs in the YouTube chat, I think the fastest driver wins. Thank you very much for your input, Scotty. Well done. Bravo.
Well done. Will Buxton, ladies and gentlemen. Our resident Will Buxton. Absolutely excellent stuff. But, well, you know what? Ashley Eleanor's just said she's not biased, so we can take that out of the park. Formula Artemis says, I'd love to see Bex take pole to victory.
Ooh.
Do you know what? That would be a pretty decent story, wouldn't it? And also they say they're absolutely not biased. There's no bias at all
No.
in this particular set of predictions tonight. Absolutely brilliant. The other thing I was thinking of as well, particularly with Australia, with it being somewhat of a street circuit, the walls are close. Based on the chaos we saw towards the end of qualifying, game-related or not, there could be safety cars in it as well. There's not exactly going to be a constant flow to this race. There will be disruptions to rhythm. So that will also throw the cat amongst the figurative.
I think it absolutely will. I've just seen Hoodie Pete saying, I think it'll be an all-female podium. You know what, Pete? I think your prediction could be slap bang there this afternoon. Scotty Design says, I think Carl would beat TK in a race. Again, a very, very valid prediction. We all know Carl is absolutely rapid at whatever game he sets his mind to. I, on the other hand, definitely am not. I think there's people in the Twitch chat agreeing with Hoodie as well here, just that it is going to be that all-female podium. But we are moments away. Everybody is in the lobby. I can confirm that, folks at home, as we get ready to go racing. I think we're just setting the grid. We are being told Lee Woodward will be starting from 4th place after facing that disqualification slightly earlier on. Their lap time has been reinstated by the JIA, the Jessica Internationale Automobile. That definitely checks out, don't question it. And they will start from 4th place on the second race. So as soon as we know the complete starting order, we will let you know and we'll give you the full rundown, hopefully, if we have that formation lap.
Hopefully, indeed. We have another prediction, by the way,
Ooh.
one that's slightly... It says, hear me out, an Aussie on the podium.
Ooh.
That'd be a feel-good story. That'd be a feel-good story. Thank you, Shy Girl, for the prediction.
I'll tell you what, there's only one Australian on the grid at the moment. We mentioned her earlier, Annie Crevis, taking to her home race in the opening round. That would be a much-deserved podium and a much, I think, well, looked forward to podium as well, I think, for Annie. One to take home, not only from the opening round, but for her home race as well. Sure, one that all of us at home can agree on. Any crazy weather, says to French Oboe. We don't know until we get into it yet. It is all on random weather. That is refreshed when we head from qualifying into the race. So even if we knew during qualifying, we actually have no idea as we head into the race. But we have got a lovely little graphic that we'll show you once we get into the session. Do not fear, everybody. We will keep you as up to date as we possibly can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That run down to turn 1 is going to be a bit crucial, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, there are 4 DRS zones, but remember, we're going to have to talk about the old caveat of dirty air, because it is killer, particularly here at Australia. They might have been running different setups for qualifying as well, maybe running slightly higher downforce to actually extract the most out of the pace over 1 lap. That could all be changed, though. That could be immediately slammed down. Usually, based on research that I know, you can bump that rear wing all the way down to 0 for the most straight line speed. But that, in turn, is a double-edged sword. If you get stuck in traffic, yes, you have the straight line speed, but you are going to ache in the corners. So the dynamics just get even more different.
It absolutely can. It'll be interesting to see what our drivers decide for their respective setups, so we might have another lobby reset to deal with, folks. Just bear with us on one brief moment, but as soon as we know, we will get you in the know as well. 18 cars set to take the grid. The only 2 cars, and this is one that I think again is worth mentioning. I'll pull this graphic up on the screen very quickly. Obviously, you've got 2 teams here, both Haas and Kick Sauber, that don't have a teammate. They don't have the worry of double stacking here, Carl, so that could play to their favour somewhat.
It could indeed, particularly in the case of Melissa Muller. I think they've got a very, very decent chance. They're starting well within the top 10. They've got some scintillating pace. Anything could happen in their corner, absolutely. I think Aston Martin might have to play it a little bit safe. Their drivers were relatively close in the running order, and in terms of pace, like I say, it's just there's so many different elements that we do have to consider tonight, and it's all still an unknown. We don't know what the letter of the law is going to be. We don't know what the driver form is going to be, because this is it. This is the first one. This will lay the groundwork for who has the best kind of start, who will carry the most momentum into that next rendezvous. But for now, we rendezvous in the land of the upside down, where stranger things have happened than Rebecca Morel taking pole position.
It absolutely will. We wait and see what car Sarah Hardy's been placed in. I believe they accidentally started spectating before the session got going. So maybe the gods have been kind to her and given her her original Williams car. If not, we're going to see either a double-edged Haas or a double-edged Kick Sauber. We'll be keeping an eye on how everything waits its down. They've got 2 minutes to set their setups and their strategies, albeit someone's readied up rather quickly, so it looks like we're going to go racing for the formation lap here, Carl. Let's have a quick check and see how everything goes on. And we have been told that Sarah Hardy was the one to ready up as well, but no rain expected here in Australia. Let's get ready for some fantastic racing.
Absolutely. See a mixture of tyre compounds already. No surprise. It's a mixture between the hards and the mediums. Plenty at the front of the field going aggressive. You've got Kiwi in the V car. That is Catherine Thielking. Starting on the mediums, Emma Clay also going for that softer compound, and she starts on the clean side of the grid. You can see the weather at the top of your screen. No predictions for rain within the next 15 minutes, which will be music to the ears of all of the drivers. That means they have no particular disruption on that front. Loads of people in the top 10 starting on the mediums. Everybody else going for that hard tyre. If safety cars come out early though, that could be a little bit of a curveball for their strategy today.
It absolutely could be. I'm just keeping an eye on what cars everybody has been placed into. It does look like Sarah Hardy might get into the correct car if they are rocking in the Williams. I'm trying to spot for the double Williams. I've seen one of the Williams. I can't see the second one, which is confusing. We know they've been placed in a Haas down there in 18th place. Sarah Hardy starts from 18th in the Haas car. This could be an interesting one to try and keep an eye on. So we've got 2 Haases now and only the 1 Williams.
Well, well, well. That puts the double stack out of the question for the Williams. That is great news for that team. I'm not biased, I promise. But Cutie Bunny, starting in the P18, has got to pull something magic out of the hat from that position. But you never know. Anything can happen in this sport, and it usually does. We're rounding the final couple of corners. That's the strategies at the bottom of your screen. Anything from a 1 to a 2 stop for the most part. But to continue the Stranger Things theme, many people have predictions. They might say Rebecca Morel, well, could win and will by a landslide, one could say. However, once they line up on the grid, once the dust has settled, once it is just those 5 red lights, believe us when we say it'll be time to turn it up to 11.
It absolutely will do. 18 cars then making their way onto the grids here in Australia. Melbourne is the round host for the opening round of the W1 Sim Series inaugural season here on F1 25. Rebecca Morel takes pole position and will start from the front alongside the V car with Kiwi. Emma Clay starts alongside Lee Woodward in the Aston Martin and the McLaren respectively. 18 ladies on the grid here then for W1. 5 lights are lit and the lights go out and we go racing for round number 1. Rebecca Morel with a good pull away. Look at Clay though, immediately jumping up past the V car, and Sharkstorm wants a bit of the action as well as they go side by side through the opening corner further back. But it's Speed Queen Rebecca Morel, our pole sitter, that holds on towards the lead. But keep an eye on Rebecca Clay, Emma Clay, my apologies, the absolute Aston Martin that wants to try and take everything they can right from the start. There's a spin further back. Miss Nutrix falling down the order, and one of the Aston Martins, the other, battling for the lead here, Carl.
Absolutely cracking start from Emma Clay, lays the foundations for a fist fight in the front. That is a move into the turn 6 corner from Lee Woodward. You don't see an overtake there often, but that was a monumental manoeuvre from the McLaren Maestro into P3. That's a podium place for the time being, as the Mercedes there is trying to get in on the action as well. Kiwi falling like a brick at the moment here on lap 1.
There are unfortunately a few cars just running off wide of the exit of turn 10 there. Catherine's got the better of Mayuki Panda for 10th place on track as we head in towards the heavy braking zone. Turn number 12, the right-hander, and it's still Morel that leads from Clay from Woodward as our top 3 at the moment. The Red Bull looks cool, calm and composed. The Aston Martin trying to put themselves in the mirrors of that Red Bull, trying to maybe act as a bit of a distracting factor, but look at the tyre difference though. The hard tyres versus the mediums for Clay as they run down. To finish off lap 1, it's Morel that leads for the entire lap.
Absolutely, and Emma Clay knows that she's got to make that move as quickly as possible. As there's Jen Chowski in the Ferrari of Charlie battling along. It's going to be Slipstream for the prancing horse down towards turn 1. Pulls out to the outside. Not much space left and just having to do a bit of lawn mowing to keep themselves in contention. Jen Chowski holds onto the move. There's Catherine Ormerod, brave on the brakes. Just slaloms round the outside of the Haas car. That was a neat little move, and it goes from bad to worse for Miss Nutrix in this race. A 10-second time penalty. Damage the boot. We have a retirement. The Ferrari's out. Charlie's out, and what did I tell you? Already, we have a safety car.
Well, that's unexpected. One Ferrari down then. Carlotta Marchi falling down the order for the Scarlet Ferrari team. That's going to allow Sarah Hardy and Miss Nutrix to try and recover themselves from the earlier mishaps that they faced. 10-second penalty going the way of Miss Nutrix further down the order for speeding the pit lane. Jen Chowski as well facing a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. We are down to 17 cars here, Carl. Unfortunate by the look of it as we ride on board with Miss Nutrix. We'll see where that car passes down the order. I believe it was here at the exit of turn 4, the Ferrari just found fate in the barrier.
Quite possibly it was the turn after. It was either a Kazuki Nakajima or a Robert Kubica. The answer is, still hasn't moved up the order quite yet, and there is the confirmation. Just after turn number 5, not entirely sure what had occurred, but that is Carlotta out of this race. One Ferrari falls foul, and it remains the following order. Rebecca Morel holds P1, Emma Clay in P2. Really impressed by the alternative lines they were taking, whether it was a distraction tactic or otherwise, just ridding themselves of the dirty air and extracting the most pace out of the car. You've got Lee Woodward in P3 with Catherine in P4 in the V car. Mercedes P5, Jessica Ball in P6, not a bad start at all. Melissa Muller in P7, Williams in P8, get in. Catherine Ormerod in P9 with a Haas rounding out the top 10. This does spare the blushes, this safety car of Miss Nutrix. Does have a 10-second time penalty currently. They can serve that in the pit stop. Jen Chowski, however, with that drive-through penalty, is going to be feeling all kinds of pain.
They absolutely are. Let's talk about Martine Smith as well. Started down in 11th place, has recovered all the way up to 8th place. Car, one of your favourite Williams that is currently still running in the race at the moment. Of course, their teammate, technically still Sarah Hardy, down in 16th place, but albeit taking a slightly different coloured Williams out for a spin here in Albert Park. Down in 16th place as everybody just tries to catch up to the back of Bernd Mailander, who is controlling the pace of the field at the moment. Rebecca Morel from Clay, from Woodward, still your top 3 here this afternoon, with the V-Carb and Mercedes Jess Ball as well in the Red Bull just behind them, making it both Red Bulls in the top 6 here so far.
Absolutely. Cracking start from the Red Bull team. Like we said, not really a Constructors' Championship to play for per se, but if that is the dynamic driver duo that Red Bull are fielding, then they are in for one hell of a season. On to lap number 4, we will cross as the Haas of Beauty Bunny and Miss Nutrix and the Aston make their way up to the back of this queue. What this does do, particularly for the medium tyre runners, is preserve their tyres a little bit more. It makes that one stop absolutely possible, and I can attest to the fact that those mediums die compared to the hards after about 5 or 6 laps. So that's why Emma Clay was showing so much urgency to try and get past, and why now it just becomes she has a little bit more breathing room as we head on through this race.
She absolutely is. You can see the likes of Sarah Hardy just pulling on to the back of the train, and Miss Nutrix not far off the back either as they make their way through the final corner down in 17th place. I'm curious as to, well, I would be expecting them to head in to serve that 10-second penalty under safety car conditions, but maybe expecting another safety car to come out later on in the race. Of course, we're only on lap 4 of 29. You've got a considerable number of laps still to do here down in Melbourne. Track temperature 28 degrees, air temperature of 20 degrees, so it is interesting just to see how the temperature is affecting all of our drivers. Just a reminder of what tyres everybody is on. Sarah Hardy and of course Miss Nutrix, both drivers opting to dive into the pits after that first lap, coming together, opting for new mediums and new hards respectively. Everybody else split pretty much down the middle in terms of mediums and hard tyres, Carl.
Absolutely. Still keeping a very, very even Stevens in terms of tyre compounds versus tyre compounds, which will be interesting to see how it develops when the figurative and virtual Bernd Mailander decides to peel into the pit lane. Might well have been at the end of this lap, but Miss Nutrix was just a bit too far off the trail. No notification. Oh, wait, there it is. Nice and late in the day, and now it's up to Rebecca Morel to control the pace of this train. Of course, as a result of the harder tyres being on, much more difficult to actually generate energy through them. And this is where Emma Clay could pounce.
It absolutely is. Let's keep an eye on Morel then. Keeping speeds at about 30 miles an hour, what you typically expect to go in a road car around these streets down under, but they do launch through the final corner, up through the gears and up through the speed as well. You can see on the screens approaching that 200 mile an hour marker down towards turn number 1, but have the hard tyres fired up enough for Morel here to try and hold off the attack from Emma Clay behind. The Aston Martin well and truly on the move and in the groove, and they could be on the attack very quickly.
Oh, let's not discount Lee Woodward. They're showing the nose. They're diving down the inside. Brave on the brakes, using all of the curb on the inside, but that just disrupts the momentum, unsettles the car, and they have to remain in P3. Catherine Ormerod, meanwhile, and Sarah Hardy duking it out for P8. That's won by the Alpine driver, but you can see what happens as soon as they get into brutal battle. They lost 3 seconds to the car ahead as a result. So now the top 7 can try and squeal on away. Emma Clay, though, like I said, setting the foundations for a fierce push for victory. No avenue into that chicane, though, has to bide their time. Look at how much curb they take on the inside, though. They're throwing everything at this early doors.
They absolutely are. So much more confidence through that 9 and 10 chicane, and the Aston Martin paying the benefits from that situation. Lee Woodward as well, still in tow, as is the V-Carb that stands behind them in 4th place, rocking the beautiful Miami livery, the all pink and white livery. That is quite possibly one of the best I've seen all season. They round the corner to finish off what will be our 2nd racing lap of the circuit so far. Emma Clay still in tow, just over 2.5 tenths back. The fastest lap changing hands ever more, and they dive in towards turn 1. Couldn't quite get the approach this time around. Miss Nutrix got the better of by Sarah Harley further back as Jen Chowski in towards the pits for the very first time.
Absolutely, has to serve that drive-through penalty. That is the pain and shame for the V-Carb driver. There they go, through pit row. Meanwhile, we highlight the Haas car of the Cutie Bunny. Like we said, has to pull the rabbit out of the hat. They're within figurative DRS range of Annie Crevis. Has to wait until the first DRS detection point, which conveniently the leaders have gone through now, and Emma Clay has a double dose of that DRS, and it seems absolutely lethal. Look at the overspeed towards the chicane and left, right, and that is good night for the race lead. On the medium tyres, they had to get the move done. They've made it stick.
They certainly have indeed. Keep an eye as well. Mayuki Panda, my apologies, as I stumble over one of the names, getting past Setar Elvin, who's off into the grass and the gravel at the exit of turn 10 there. Couldn't quite keep the Haas car in the correct positioning on the circuit, and they have going to suffer the consequences of that so far. But now Clay leads as we round to start lap 7 of 29. Morel will have to sit in tow, as will Woodward. Kiwi, I think, just at the moment, quite happy just to sit in 4th place, watch the drama unfold in front, as Clay now sets the fastest lap of the session.
They've just got to get a move on now down the road as much as possible. DRS, of course, super strong round here. Much easier said than done. But Rebecca Morel just looks a little bit vulnerable at the moment. Lee Woodward not afraid to go for moves, and actually playing it ultra aggressively, has got plenty of confidence in that McLaren car. Keep an eye on them as this race goes on. Meanwhile, behind we have a 3-car DRS train. That Mercedes car of Katrina leading that train, Jessica Ball and Melissa Muller in close company as they enter this double DRS zone.
Sarah Hardy's got the better of Annie Crevis as they make their way in towards turn 4. Fantastic stuff for the Williams driver turned Haas driver at the moment. Crevis just falls down to 14th place. They have got Miss Nutrix for company, of course, down in 15th with that 10-second penalty still hanging over their head. Katrina Edmondson with a 3-second penalty for violating track limits just one too many times. And keep an eye here as Mayuki Panda gets the better of the Williams through turn 9 and turns 10 as well, respectively, for 9th and 10th on track. How picturesque is that one?
Absolutely brilliant stuff. Mayuki Panda just making their way up little by little, doing exactly what they need to do, keeping it consistent. And on those hard compound tyres, they will only get better and better during this first stint. Up at the front, Emma Clay not quite able to break away from Rebecca Morel, who's managed to find that confidence. It's basically skating on the track limits as much as possible. Ever since a recent an update passed, rather, it's not that recent, but you can get away with pushing the track limits a little bit more. It's when you extend those track limits that it really comes back to bite you. As the Williams and the McLaren are fighting again for P9, the Mayuki Panda's come off way worse because there's Setar Elvin, who's just capitalised beautifully. Overcooks it on the brakes though, and now blood in the water for the McLaren to smell. No opportunity to make it through though. It's Miss Nutrix that's on the move though. Has to make it count, still has a penalty looming over their head, but they've ran rings round the Haas. It's Rebecca Morel, though, showing the nose to the outside, trying to replicate the Emma Clay feat. Can't quite do it on this occasion.
Not this time around, but keep an eye on the Aston Martin defending that inside line, and this is fantastic defensemanship from the Aston Martin that still leads here on lap 8 of 29. Mayuki Panda getting the better of Setar Elvin slightly further down the order, but the 4-car gaggle that we have as we run through this third and final sector, they seem inseparable in many moments. It's all, well, a mix of tyres, 2 on the mediums, 2 on the hard tyres. We've got Clay and Kiwi, both of them running the mediums. It's Woodward and Morel that are running the harder tyres to see the opening stint of this race out. So the question is going to be longevity here. Can the medium runners keep them alive to continue running in the form that we've seen in this opening 8 laps.
Definitely will be a bit easier. They had those couple of laps to just let the tyres calm down a little bit. But even so, when they get to that first cliff point, they are a menace to try and maintain. As Jessica Bull all over, darting out from underneath the diffuser of the Mercedes ahead, to the left, to the right, but unfallible, unshakable from 5th position at the moment is Katrina in the Mercedes. Again, that double dose of DRS comes out to play, but hardly any battery in the reserves for the Red Bull driver, and so all of that hard work just has to wait a little bit more.
Yeah, completely draining the battery there. Lee Woodward with a 3-second penalty. The first of the drivers up in the top 4 to try and get themselves a penalty. And look at this, Morel once again having to try and go to defensive to a very defensive Clay, who still leads. Woodward, though, now knows they've got nothing to lose in this Grand Prix. They might try and attack the leaders and potentially maybe go for a slight dangerous move. The ball has well and truly been moved into the court of the McLaren.
Absolutely, and well, Rebecca Morel had to throw the defensive shape. So aggressive and so confident is Lee Woodward, despite the penalty even. Like you say, she has now got nothing to lose, cutting turn 1 absolutely beautifully to try and extract the most of the pace, as now that 3-car train behind has now turned to a 4-car train, because Catherine Ormerod has joined the party.
That they certainly have done. Well, they had 3 cars, as you said. They made it 4 with the likes of the Alpine just hanging on to the back of this train as they make their way through the first sector. It's Edmondson that stands in 5th, Ball in 6th, Muller in 7th, with Ormerod down in 8th place at the moment. They'll continue to work their way through. We've got 2 groups of 4, shall we say, up in the top 8 at the moment, separated by over 3 seconds. Keep an eye here on Muller trying to go for a move, potentially. We've got Sharkstorm as well. Woodward trying to go around the outside in towards turn 9, turn 10. Are we going to see a move? Absolutely beautiful. We are round the outside into the entry to turn 9, and I think Morel had absolutely nowhere to go. Woodward now in 2nd place, and well and truly on the attack of Clay. Are they going to go for it into turn 12? Round the outside. That is just spectacular.
Outrageous from Lee Woodward. That is a double dose of stealing the spotlight from the McLaren driver, penalty or not. That is absolutely phenomenal work, and now they can get to work on those hard tyres. The mediums will be screaming out for resuscitation, so despite the 3-second time penalty, this ball has gone right back into the McLaren driver's court. Absolutely interstellar effort. Here it is on the replay. DRS wide open. This was after that first move. Round the outside at the chicane. They said, so nice, I'll do it twice. Round the outside of the right-hander. That's a fabulous set of moves, TK.
That is absolutely superb. And keep an eye here. Woodward well and truly running away. Clay's almost out of DRS range from the McLaren that now leads this race. And I think they are now out of DRS range. And I wonder what Clay is going to do here. They know they've got the 3-second penalty hanging over their heads slightly further forward. So maybe they're under the impression they can just let that McLaren go. But oh my goodness, Lee Woodward, what a way to make an introduction in the first round of the W1 series.
Could not agree more with you. I could not agree more with you. Catherine Ormerod's the person on the move, though. Excellent work from the Alpine ace. 2 positions gained. Jessica Bull perhaps being a little bit too aggressive and a little bit overspendent on the battery, as Kiwi now tries to go and make an outside maneuver. Scratch that. Down the inside, there you go. Into P3. Rebecca Morel loses 2 positions in the space of 2 laps. Our pole sitter falling by the wayside. It's Lee Woodward, though, who has over a second's worth of buffer onto lap number 12 on the superior compound. And well, what a story this could be in the context of this race.
This is very interesting indeed. I wonder if this is a sign the mediums are maybe starting to falter, even with that safety car period that we saw slightly earlier on. Keep an eye on everybody on the left-hand side. That timing tower, as we start to see those adjustments made as the hard tyres start to come into their own. We're lap 12 of 29, approaching that halfway point, which will hit roughly 14 and a half laps into this Grand Prix. And everybody could be about to go for that first pit, so we're expecting him in the next few laps. And as soon as we have the first drivers in, we we will keep you up to date with everybody's tyre requests and their tyre choices. But keep an eye on Kiwi here, though. Has DRS to Emma Clay in front. Are we going to see a very similar move round the outside and towards turn number 9? Go side by side. No, thank you. They get the move done. Stunning again from Kiwi. That's twice in 3 laps. We've seen the same move pulled on Clay. And keep an eye here, as it's going to be Morel who goes for a similar move. Doesn't even need the brake zone into the corner. And the Red Bull makes that P3 now.
A selection of showstoppers to satiate your appetite, ladies and gentlemen. What a set of overtakes we have seen here at the first round of the W1 Sim Series on F1 25, and no real surprise, Emma Clay pulls the plug on the medium tyres. I would not be surprised at all if it was hard compound tyres all the way to the end of the race. That does mean they get a very healthy undercut indeed, but then the others will have the tyre offset, with particularly Catherine Thielking in the V-Carb having 1 lap newer hard tyres. What a difference that could make.
That absolutely could be the game that we are going to see played out here. Catherine Ormerod as well out in what will be 11th place, I believe, as they managed to get out just ahead of Setar Elvin. You said this earlier, the likes of Catherine Thielking up in 2nd place, being Kiwi, of course, that we've mentioned throughout this broadcast for not only some spectacular moves, but some brave ones as well, as yellow flags just briefly flying in the 3rd and final sector. I think that could be Annie Crevis, might have been going slightly slowly down the start-finish straight, but it has been a fantastic opening run so far. I think Jen Chowski here might be having a bit of an issue, and they are off into the grass and the gravel at the final few corners, very much like we saw Oscar Piastri just a few years ago.
Shades of David Coulthard, I think, in 2002 when he dropped it on the safety car at that corner as well. Still had another name to that particular corner, but there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Now the hard tyres. Rebecca Morel will have to weather the storm. Had her momentum curtailed a little bit, but she's not going to have to wait long. It's Catherine Thielking into the pit lane off the mediums. It will be a slightly newer set of the hard compound tyres, and where will they emerge in comparison to Emma Clay?
This will be the one to keep an eye out for. Clay down in 7th place at the moment, just coming through the penultimate corner now and round onto that all-important final corner. Melissa Muller joins them in the pits as well, also opting to get off of a set of the mediums. And look at this, it's Thielking that could come out ahead of Emma Clay as they break in towards the first corner. The Aston Martin still a good 2.5 seconds off the back of this V-Cup, and they run through on lap 14 here. Edmondson picks up a 3-second penalty as well, but Emma Clay, the undercut, not working out here this afternoon.
No, absolutely not. Great last lap on the medium tyres from Catherine Thielking. And, well, the overcut played to perfection. Emma Clay will be scratching their head slightly, thinking, where did it all go wrong? After all the pace in the first stint, still, there's your situation in terms of pit stoppers and non-pit stoppers. Still a couple of medium runners who we have no doubt will probably pit end of this lap. The hard tyre runners have a few more laps, though, to just make sure that the mediums will get to the end, that they can extract the most out of those tyres. DRS does belong to Emma Clay. They will have warmer tyres as well. It does take a little bit of energy to go through those hard compound tyres to get them up to full operating speed, as the Williams of Teeny has a little bit of a problem, and by a little bit they've lost a position not just to Mayuki Panda, but to Catherine Ormerod as well.
Yeah, still up net 2 positions as well after the race. Down the inside of turn 12. Ambitious to say the least there for Martine Smith. Couldn't quite get the car slowed down. And that's not exactly the sort of move I think she was hoping to try and make in that situation. Jess Ball, the last of our, well, one of the last of our medium runners in towards pit road, as Emma Clay sets the fastest lap of the race. We'll have the Williams of Teeny coming in as well, just to get off of a set of those hard tyres. Interesting, the hard tyres have started to give up on this situation. Ormerod down the inside of Mayuki Panda in towards the first corner, as well as Miss Nutrix and Melissa Muller continuing to battle it out here on lap 15. Half race distance gone. Virtual safety car's been called, Carl.
Well. Dee Woodward and Rebecca Morel could be playing a blinder here if it stays out long enough. Emma Clay and Catherine Thielking helpless to whatever happens next, as out of the pit lane heels the lone Williams Wonder and Sitar Elvin in the Haas car down into penultimate last and indeed last place of our runners at the moment. But virtual safety car, and will it keep on staying out? As
Emma.
oh dear, 10-second time penalty,
no.
not just for Emma Clay and for Catherine Thielking. And are we about to see F1 25 rear its head as a bunch of drivers have just accrued a penalty? It does stay out long enough, this virtual safety car. for Lee Woodward to peel into the pit lane as we get a slew of drive-through penalties as well. Annie Crevice and the Williams car. I'm devastated. Martine Smith also gets a drive-through penalty. No front wing for Jen Chowsky. It's absolute anarchy in Australia.
It really is all over the shop at the moment. I think this could be F1 25 rearing its ugly head. Carl, why do we have a feeling about the Australian Grand Prix in virtual safety cars? I have a vicious memory of that about 3 weeks ago. If you want to try and share some experience. Yeah.
Well, moving on, Speed Queen is in first place at the moment, lap number 16. Luckily for us, we've had at least 14 or 15 more laps of racing than that particular race, which I forget about. But Rebecca Morel choosing to stay out rather interestingly, but maybe perhaps feeling that the medium tyres, as Jen Chowsky, it goes from bad to worse. It's another 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. But anything can happen in league racing. They're not throwing in the towel. They will stay out. They will be completing that race. And that, for me, is excellent to see. Not throwing in the towel, not ever giving up, even when it is seemingly all against you.
You're absolutely right. And as it stands, of course, with penalties being strewn across the table at the moment, albeit some of them I'm almost certainly not deserved amongst this table at the moment, with those VSC issues that we saw. Jen Chowsky just coming out of pit road down in 17th place. We've got all of the cars in and amongst this field at the moment. Second place down, coming through the final corner. More yellow flags, I believe, just for the V-Carb, getting accustomed to the new set of tyres. But this is how the race stands at the moment then. Rebecca Morel up in the top with Katrina Edmondson in second place. Lee Woodward in third with, of course, Thiel King in fourth place at the moment. Emma Clay in fifth as Thiel King sets the fastest lap of the race on the harder set of compound tyres. We'll have a brief reminder of how the penalties span at the grid. Four 10-second penalties make that 5 as Miss Nutrix speeds in the pit lane, unfortunately, down in 9th place, and a whole host of 3s and a 6 as well for Edmondson up in second place. Melanie Jander getting the better of Miss Nutrix, who is in pit road with Setar Elvin also getting the move down. So keep an eye though, Lee Woodward here as they try and go for the move in towards turn 9 and turn 10 on Katrina Edmondson, and that is a Woodward classic, I think, Carl.
Signed, sealed and delivered into the chicane, purple sector 2 as well. They're going for the fastest lap on their own terms. But this is going to be rather interesting now. Of course, they use that virtual safety car to lose less time than Rebecca Morel, who is up the road from them. Equally, though, as Rebecca Morel stays out for another lap, I believe that is. Jessica Ball, though, the opportunity's opened up for her. But again, Catherine Ormerod, the thorn in her side, has gone past in the Alpine. And because of all the virtual safety car shenanigans, these two are not, they're just a stone's throw away from Emma Clay in P5 as Sharkstorm Lee Woodward inevitably sets the fastest lap of the race. A 1 minute 18 lap time, conveniently on lap number 18.
Yeah, you can see the distance here between the Aston Martin, the Alpine and the Red Bull that are just behind them at the moment. Setar Elvin getting the better of Melanie Jander in towards turn 12. Little bit of argy-bargy there between the two Ferrari-powered cars as Elvin does make the move past Jander. Jander down in 10th place at the moment. And I wonder if there's a little bit of knocks to the confidence here, because that didn't look like the Melanie we've seen in the opening 14 or so laps of this race. I wonder if there's maybe a little bit of knocks to the confidence after those, I don't know, technical difficulties or technical gremlins just raising their heads.
I'll put Emma Clay into that conversation as well. I mean, those hard tyres are not that much older than what Catherine Thielking has, but she's losing time at quite a significant rate compared to the V-Carb up ahead, so maybe a big knock to her confidence as well. We have a yellow flag, and for a moment I thought that was Lee Woodward, but it is Jen Chowsky again, just adhering to the blue flags, making sure they do not disrupt the racing that is happening on the track, as Rebecca Morel finally pulls the pit lane trigger at the end of lap number 16. So, they have lost out in terms of the virtual safety car, but Lee Woodward is going to be pushing those mediums to their absolute breaking point.
They certainly are indeed. Woodward takes the lead of the race, of course, with 3 seconds worth of penalties still in tow as they make their way down towards turns 3 and turns 4 here. We've got the likes of Thiel King battling Edmondson, of course, who just come out or is coming through the pit lane at the moment, getting off a set of the medium tyres, or the hard tyres, I believe, just dropping down the order, down in 7th place at present. Yes, off of hard set of tyres onto the mediums to see this race out here, Carl.
Absolutely. They will have the pace. They should easily reel on away from Catherine Thielking, who sees the Red Bull tantalisingly close in the distance, albeit they do have a 10-second time penalty over their head. There might well be a lot of off-track discussion after this race, but regardless, lap number 19, Jessica Bull hasn't let Catherine Ormerod out of their crosshairs, not just yet. She's going to have the DRS, she's going to deploy it, so nice she will do it twice. And has there been some learning from earlier in this race? Has she been able to just save that battery a little bit more as they gain some more into the chicane? It will not be on this occasion, taking a slightly tighter line through the right-hander. But again, that dirty air just adding on another 1/10 of a second as Catherine Ormerod has actually managed to couple on to the DRS train of Emma Clay up ahead.
They have done indeed. You can see that just cresting between that 1 second, 9/10 of a second barrier that is required to gain DRS in the car in front. They've got to try and hold on to this rate. They round the corner here. They would have got it, I believe, at the detection point. No, it doesn't look like it. They're not going to get the rear wing open on that Alpine. That is going to leave them vulnerable to Jess Ball here. In towards the first corner. Can't quite get the overspeed required from the drag reduction system, can the Red Bull this time around. But Jess Ball, of course, optimising and using the second of 4 DRS zones here at Albert Park.
Absolutely. I remember watching that first social race at Silverstone as there's the mistake from Catherine Ormerod and rolling on round the outside. Takes 2 to tango and it's a delightful dance completed by Jessica Ball. That is a lovely little move, capitalising on the mistake, but now the DRS switches hands. It's a double dose for the Alpine driver.
It will be on the run down towards turn 9. Keep an eye for that rear wing open, and Ormerod does indeed get the rear wing open. Ball could be in trouble here. Down towards turn 9, we've seen a move favoured in towards the chicane, but the Alpine not quite close enough on this occasion. But down towards turn 12, again, another opportunity to get that rear wing open, and drivers will use that to their advantage. The Alpine, again, not just benefiting from the extra straight line speed that it affords them. Keep an eye further back for Mayuki Panda, who's not far off the back of Sarah Hardy in that Haas car at the moment for 10th place, which could result in some good points for Yuki.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, Sarah Hardy, Beauty Bunny, the magician's trademark, has transformed a little bit into a sorceress supreme with some magical manoeuvres into the top 10. Soon to be shuffled out of it though, because Mayuki Panda just simply shuffles on through as ever. As a little moment out of turn number 4, manages to keep it on the bitumen. But it's a yellow flag and no more. We keep on with racing conditions as Rebecca Morel has just eaten in just about a second into Lee Woodward's margin out in front.
You see Annie Crevice right on the rear of Heather now, just as they make their way through, just trying to keep the car on the straight and narrow. More yellow flags flying here around this circuit. I think that's Jen Chowski. Again, just not finding comfortability in that V-Carb racing car. They are a difficult car to get used to, Carl. I think we'll give the drivers their dues. They are not easy cars to get used to, and especially here at Australia, where you need to run that straight line speed and you sacrifice so much downforce. They are really difficult cars to get used to.
Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head completely with that. You're running as minimal downforce as you possibly can. It also maybe doesn't take account for what assists they are running as well, whether they have just tried to turn them all off, try and challenge themselves even more. That in itself poses its own kind of challenges that the drivers need to face, as out of DRS slips Sarah Hardy in the Haas car, and Miss Nutrix might well be making another manoeuvre in this race.
She certainly could be indeed. Keep an eye on that Aston Martin. Round the outside they go of Sarah Hardy, who again just seems to be going slowly on the straight. I wonder if that's confidence, or I wonder if that could be a technical gremlin just raising his head. Neither is going to matter to Miss Nutrix, who goes flying on past in that Aston Martin, and now has Mayuki Panda well and truly within her sights as they pass through turn 12 here. The driver that is P11 looks for P10, and this third and final sector can set her up nicely for the start-finish straight run.
Here we go then, round the final 2 corners, a race chock full of magical manoeuvres, ladies and gentlemen watching. We hope you've enjoyed it, certainly. If you aren't already following on Twitch, subscribed on YouTube, etc, etc, please do so. If this isn't an indication of just how exciting the action can be, I don't know what is. Miss Nutrix can't make the move at the moment. Oh no, it's a Williams with a 10-second time penalty. I am once again devastated. Again though, that margin out in front, Rebecca Morel is just being relentless. Now down under 11 seconds is the advantage out in front. But providing the tyres don't fall off for Lee Woodward, it might just be a bit too little too late for the Red Bull driver.
You're absolutely right. Last lap difference between Woodward and, of course, Morel was only about 0.8 of a second between the two in the favour of Morel. But keep an eye here. Miss Nutrix now round the outside as they head in towards turn 9 and turn 10. Mayuki Panda, surely nothing can be done on this move. They can't. The Aston Martin makes that up to 10th place. Mayuki Panda will have to settle for 11th, but you can see Nutrix was chasing that down over the last lap. And that has got to be a feel-good move for the Aston Martin.
Race where it hasn't gone quite their way, I could not agree more. Making manoeuvres is absolutely going to send that confidence spiralling only upwards. But they do have that penalty next to their name. I don't know if it's still that 10-second time penalty from earlier in the race, and it is indeed still that 10 seconds. And it's shades of Daniel Ricciardo at Mexico in 2022 when he made an absolute slew of manoeuvres, then decided, well, actually, time to put the power down. And he did. And he kept his position despite the penalty over his head. Speaking of penalties, Melissa Muller, the latest driver to get a 3-second time penalty for a slight track limits excursion. Still, that gap out in front decreases even more, nearly under 10 seconds. But the margin of, well, the rate of catching is just not enough.
It's certainly not at the moment as they continue to work their way through here. Just keep an eye on Morel as they continue to try and close down that gap, no matter how much they continue to try and fight. The last lap delta is telling us all we need to know. Only 0.4 of a second between Woodward and Morel, and that is not going to be enough to try and catch them down in only 5.5 laps of racing to go. It's going to be incredible battling for all of our drivers as they make their way through. And there's one to keep an eye on, especially as we get close to 29. We could still see a mistake from Woodward. Let's not completely count that out here. And of course, we do have that 3-second penalty hanging over the McLaren's head. And just a little spoiler alert for everybody at home. The McLaren is on 5 warnings, 1 away from an additional penalty car.
Well, wouldn't that just flip the script on its head completely? Rebecca Morel changes it absolutely from having to catch 6.5 seconds. It's only 3.5 seconds the margin they would have to catch. So Lee Woodward on their last strike in terms of the potential victory of this race. What we also don't know is just how much tyre wear Lee Woodward has at the moment and how much they're actually saving their tyres across this race. As you can see, 56% on the front left. They're not exactly letting it breathe. Not that much. They can't afford to, particularly. But equally, with a 9 seconds margin, I believe they can just take it easy now. I think they've got enough of a margin. Just let this crawl on home and take what would be an unbelievable race win, which started early on in the race with that double dose of absolute brilliance.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can go back and have a look at that moment of brilliance that we saw earlier in this race. We saw the one move through the turn 9 and turn 10 chicane, and this from out of nowhere when Clay was not expecting it into turn 12 round the outside. Wham bam, thank you ma'am, as Woodward takes P1 away, and that was how they did it. Spectacular in their driving so far. Their tyres are definitely going to be close to puncture range at the end of this race, but of course with the buffer they've got to Morel slightly further back. McLaren surely looks to have a good grasp on the race win this afternoon.
We'll say this, Rebecca Morel has caught up quite a lot on this lap, more so than any other lap. Meanwhile, Catherine Ormerod is finally gonna get her prey. Predator strikes, and that is P4 on the road for the Alpine driver. And let's not forget, a 10-second time penalty for Kiwi up ahead. They could still inherit P3 in this race. Could the Alpine driver? It's not completely out of the question. It now falls to Jessica Ball again. Target locked, Emma Clay up ahead. And they make it stick.
I think we're getting to that element of the race now where we start to see the mental degradation come in as a factor, especially when we know we've got penalties hanging over our heads for the likes, especially of Emma Clay. That 10-second penalty that she got handed slightly earlier in the race, and one that I'm sure many will believe is not the most fair of penalties, will not be the most just of penalties. But I believe our stewarding team will be looking at those sort of issues, and I believe they will be able to remove them if they remain unserved. So quite literally, this whole thing could turn on its head, especially for the mid-pack fights, the 5th through 8th sort of positions at the moment. But Emma Clay, you've got to get rid of those demons. You've got to just put that aside, and I think that might be what they're struggling with at the moment.
Yeah, Car's body language just looked pretty nervous going out of turn number 5, just squirming on the power. to try and keep it on the straight and narrow. Jessica Ball with a double dose of DRS. Another yellow flag, meanwhile. I think that's the Mercedes of Heather, who has just had a bit of a moment into the final corner. They do keep it pointing in the right direction, though, and that will be still smooth sailing in the context of this race. Meanwhile, behind, I believe that's Lee Woodward, crossing the line to make it lap number 27. Rebecca Morel now gets the gap. Right on cue, I think. No, never mind. There it is, just below 8 seconds for the Red Bull driver, and they will be praying, not that they will know that information, but they will be praying that Lee Woodward has one final track limit strike to just relieve that extra pressure off their shoulders.
They certainly will. I'm sure there'll be an engineer in the stream, because it's the good thing to do. Just keep an eye on the information that you're provided to by the broadcast, especially in a capacity here in F1 25 where you don't get shared too much data. There's no room in the lobby like we see in other sim racing titles to have that physical engineer or the physical spotter in the lobby with you. So as much information as you can gain is the better. And if they are made aware of that, Morel surely now knows is the time to push, try and force Woodward into that additional mistake. If they know they're continuing to pile on the pressure lap after lap after lap, the Red Bull knows they've only got to gain a second and a half, and of course that's not including the mistake that Woodward has to then make if this is going to go the other way. It is all still to play for with just over 2 laps remaining here, folks. Get your predictions in the live chat if you think Woodward's going to take this or another driver might be able to swoop in at the very last moment.
This is nail-biting stuff across the line for lap number 28. Goes the McLaren. Their tyres surely screaming, particularly on the left-hand side. Another brief yellow flag in Sector 3. And it looked to be about where Emma Clay and Jessica Ball were. Not that they've been particularly disrupted. They carry on their merry way. Under 7 seconds the gap goes. Rebecca Morel is absolutely eviscerating the margin. And look at the left front tyre. 74%. They're going to be agonizingly close to puncture territory. They're 75% of the way. 5 more percent, and this race just becomes significantly more interesting.
It really does. They've got to baby those tyres around this circuit. But of course, look at Morel slightly further back, half a second. If that additional penalty were to come in the way of Woodward through turn 9, turn 10, we go. It looks like Ferrari's had a bit of an issue with that Melanie Janda, who's just slowing down through the exit of turn 5. It might be there as the Aston Martin swoops on past them. I believe that's going to be the likes of Emma Clay and the cohort behind her as they continue to press on for 5th place on circuit. But at the moment, the battle up at the front, whilst it looks like it's a bit of a gap between the two drivers, it is an exhilarating fight that is going on here, Carl.
Absolutely. It is a game of strategy, a game of psychology, and everything else in between. One final lap then of Albert Park. It falls to Lee Woodward to just bring it on home. But what is that front left tyre looking like? It was 75% a little bit through the lap. Oh, heck, it is 79%. It's going to cross over into that puncture territory, and there it is. That's the 80% mark. Now it's up to Lady Luck and the gods to decide the fate of the McLaren driver throughout the rest of this lap, and that was nearly a tap with the wall. On the left-hand side, the body language of that McLaren just getting more and more nervous. Rebecca Morel pushing and pushing more and more to try and prize away a potential race victory. And Lee Woodward's got to be mighty careful, but whoever wins this race, what a scintillating spectacle we've had. And it's a matter of corners, but it's going to be a nail-biting set of corners here.
It really is indeed. Woodward is not going easy on those tyres. I think they're off the philosophy of I'm just going to push them until I get home. They are going to be screaming when they cross the line, but they've only got 2 more corners to try and navigate here for Lee Woodward, who's had a fantastic drive this entire race. Some exhilarating overtakes for the Papaya McLaren. They will read all about it this afternoon as they run home, not only to take victory, but to win the opening round of the W1 Sim Series here in Australia. And what a hard-fought victory that was. Woodward takes the top spot.
Oh, take a bow. Our first winner of W1 is crowned. Front page, back page news. Ladies and gentlemen, what a scintillating drive. Did gain from the virtual safety car, but my goodness me, the maneuvers that were made at the beginning of the race. You just knew that it was a race winner on merit. You just knew that whoever won that race would be so deserving, and despite the front left tyre, they made it. They made it happen. Condolences, but also congratulations to Rebecca Morel for pushing all the way to the death, giving Lee Woodward a rather hard time on that near-punctured left front tyre. Kiwi maintains the podium in the end in P3, despite the penalty. Catherine Thielking, what a set of pace that VCARB driver has had. That is immense work.
That is an absolutely incredible drive. 84% on the front left there at the end for Lee Woodward. And oh my goodness, how they got that car home, I have absolutely no idea. Mayuki Panda will be the last driver to come across the line. Front wing damage, but Pride almost certainly still intact as they come home for P11. But we will run through your complete and proper grid order, your finishing order for round 1 here of the W1 Sim Series. And boy, what a race this has been, Carl. It's been a pleasure to be alongside you for it. And one that, as we head into the season proper, I'm almost certain will give us some fantastic races.
Well, there's nowhere else I'd rather be for a first commentary of 2026, but love is in the air, an affair with victory most certainly, and one that they will absolutely revel in. They pushed the tyres to the extremes, and they made it happen. It's 2 British drivers, 1 and 2, with a piece of American flair in P3. Let the celebrations commence. We've crowned our first winner of W1. There's your accolades. Driver of the day went to Sarah Hardy, cleanest driver to Rebecca Morel, but fastest lap and race winner, Lee Woodward. Immense drive here tonight.
Absolutely. Most overtakes as well, going to the home hero, Annie Crevis. She will be absolutely over the moon with that race here this afternoon. But your complete order then for the Australian Grand Prix for round 1 of the W1 Series is Lee Woodward that tops the table, with Rebecca Morel and Catherine Thielking as your top 3, with Catherine Omarod, Jessica Wall, Emma Clay, Katrina Edmondson, Melissa Muller, Seta Elvin, Miss Nutrix, Mayuki Panda in your top 11, with Sarah Hardy coming home in 12th, Melanie Janda in 13th. We've got Teeny down in 14th place, Annie Crevis holding it right for the home crowd in 15th. Heather finishes 16th, Jen Chowski 17th, and of course our DNF Carlotta Marchi, who I believe couldn't quite get the setup sorted right as the session went live, and that is what led to her DNF here this afternoon, Carl. But 18 start, 17 finish. What a fantastic race we've just had.
A scintillating Slobberknocker. I think that's the only way I can put it. Absolutely enthralling all the way through. And the moves that were made.
Yeah.
The moves that were made were outrageous. So many into that fast sweeping left-right chicane. One that many drivers would cower in Fairwind, but not this grid. Not this grid one bit. It was beautiful.
Absolutely, and one that I'm sure will go down in the history books, not only as quite possibly one of the best opening rounds of W1 Series, but also one of the best opening rounds of a league that I think I've ever seen. And if this sets up the precedent that we're going to see for the other 9 rounds, well, ladies and gentlemen, you are in for one heck of a treat every single Thursday night. And whilst we're at it, let's have a quick reminder of where our calendar does indeed take us. Carl, why don't you run us through our 10-track calendar?
Absolutely. We've crowned our first race winner of W1 here in Australia. All the congratulations to Lee Woodward for a delightful drive. But next week, we head over to the Suzuka circuit. Absolutely iconic. And then to the Sakir circuit in Bahrain for round 3. To cap off January, it's off to the Red Bull Ring, the Austrian Grand Prix. From there, we head home, the birthplace of Formula 1, the British Grand Prix. We had our first social race there. We have round 5 of the first season. Belgian Grand Prix, Spa-Francorchamps is round 6, with Monza and Qatar following in the weeks ahead. Then, 2 races in March, Abu Dhabi, usually the season closer in Formula 1 terms, but there's only one real place you can go to have a cutthroat finish to the season, and it has to be Interlagos at Brazil. 10 of the very best, and we've already capped off 1, and that was some spectacle.
It absolutely was. What a round we've just seen, and one that I'm sure will go down in the history books. And I'm going to almost guarantee we'll probably see quite a few of those moves on social media over the course of the week. But I can confirm we've got our race victor standing in ready for an interview waiting room. Let's pull in Lee Woodward, who not only had a fantastic drive here this afternoon, but also won the race for the opening round of the W1 Sim Series. Lee, talk to us. How did that race feel from your point of view here this afternoon?
Honestly, it was so mental. I didn't think I'd be able to do it. As soon as I got the penalty, I was like, that's my race done. I'm just going to get a podium. But no, to make the mediums go that many laps was insane.
Yeah, just obviously you had a fantastic pace all round. We saw two, quite possibly, of the best moves I think I've ever seen in F1 League racing. That double overtake around the outside of turn 9 into 10, and then the second move on Clay in towards turn 12. Talk us through, was that the plan all along?
It was kind of by accident. I kind of caught up quicker than I expected.
Nice. Carl, any questions for a race victor?
Of course. I mean, that's the best way you can do it. I'm not going to complain about an accidental masterclass maneuver. Lee, firstly, massive congratulations. Third race victory. You are our first W1 race winner. I want to talk about those last couple of laps, though, because those left tyres looked like a bit of a chore to try and maintain. So just talk us through your approach for those last couple of laps. Was there any nerves, particularly in that last lap?
Yeah, I basically just didn't even look at the tyre wear thing on the MFD. I was more just looking at ERS. I was like, if it's not on my screen, it's not happening. I'm just going to keep pushing and see if I can get it.
Absolutely. I respect that decision, Lee. And obviously, we look ahead in the calendar. We head next time to the Suzuka circuit for the Japanese Grand Prix. How are your thoughts, how are your feelings heading into round 2?
I mean, I'd prefer 10 rounds of Australia if they're going to go like that.
Very, very fair. Anything, obviously, we've spoken about the calendar a lot today, and one that was released and voted on by the drivers. We've mentioned that a fair bit. Obviously, you were involved in that voting. Was there any tracks that you would have liked to see that didn't end up on that calendar? Monaco, oh.
Yeah. I like it a bit too much. It's one of my favourites.
It is a fan favourite. Personally, one of my favourites as well. I'm not going to beat around the bush on this one. But, Carl, anything further for our race winner?
No, not questions-wise, but a massive congratulations, obviously. Great way to kickstart your season. And fingers crossed, keep the momentum rolling into Suzuka. Really well done.
Thank you very much. I just want to quickly say I like that's my first ever win in a league race, so I'd like to sort of dedicate that to my grandparents who I wish could be here to see it, but unfortunately aren't with us anymore. But I'd like to think they'd have enjoyed that.
Absolutely, and what a fitting tribute as well, Lee. Thank you for coming to chat to us. A massive, massive congratulations on not only the win, but your first win in league racing as well. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you ever so much, Lee. Absolutely pleasure to speak to them, and of course, always a pleasure to speak to our race victor. And Carl, just not only was that such a fitting tribute and one that you absolutely love to see, but you could tell that there was some fantastic racecraft going in those last 5 or so laps just to hold on to that race win.
A touching tribute, absolutely. And I mean, when it comes to race wins like that, whether you say maneuvers were on accident or not, you never get there by luck. You always end up there by some, either because you've put yourself in that position, essentially. The reason they put themselves in that position, you can say as much as you want in terms of a race win. Got lucky with the virtual safety car, that's why they had the buffer, but ultimately they were the only one brave enough to pull that trigger at the front of that field. Yes, their tyres were screaming, but ultimately they made it happen, and that's all the kudos you could ever give.
You're absolutely correct. Well, everybody, as every good show must come to an end, we've reached that time of the evening where we also have to say our goodbyes. We've had a thrilling opening round, 29 laps of Australia. The perfect season opener, and I could not have asked for more. Next time out, next Thursday, we head to Suzuka for round number 2. And again, I can almost assure you it'll be one of the most thrilling races you ever watch in F1 League racing. Carl, it's been a pleasure to have you alongside us for this opening round. Obviously stepping in for George, who is under the weather, and we wish him all the fastest recoveries. But where can they check you out on social media if they want to do so just that little bit more?
Well, I'll tell you where you can't find me. Peckham. You won't find me there. But where you will find me, I have a pretty distinctive name, Carl Paranik, just down there. And there's my actual name over there. If you type that in on pretty much every single social media, you'll probably find me there. Final few words from me are, firstly, massive thank you to W1 for having me in the commentary box. A huge congratulations. The series is up and off, and what a first round. What a testament to the hard work that's gone into this series. I wish George Morgan a massive speedy recovery. Congratulations to all the drivers, and I echo your sentiment, Tom Knight. It's been an absolute pleasure being alongside you today.
Certainly has been. And of course, just one massive shout out to all the staff behind the scenes. There is a whole bunch of people that don't get shown on the broadcast. They do fantastic work behind the scenes. And we all got scared earlier when George announced a very urgent staff meeting, which turned out to be very, very good news that we might be able to shout, hopefully, on next week's broadcast. But massive shout out to all of those guys behind the scenes that do incredible, incredible work. This quite literally wouldn't happen without them. But we will be back next time on Thursday. If you want to check me out a little bit more, I'm at They Call Me TK just below my name there. Type that in, drop us a follow. That would be absolutely fantastic. And if you aren't following W1 Series already, whether that be on our live streaming platforms, Twitch and YouTube, drop us a follow on Twitch, a like and a subscribe on YouTube, and drop us a follow on TikTok, Instagram, wherever else we post content. There we go, it's in the Twitch chat. Lovely. !social gives you all of the links. And join the Discord as well, which has also been put in chat by our lovely mod, Penguin Victoria, which I have been told is not a penguin. I was quite disappointed to find that one out very recently. However, until we see you next time for the Japanese Grand Prix, from all of us here at W1 Sim Series, it's been an absolute pleasure. Have a good night, and God bless.